Welcome back. Welcome to part 2. If you haven't seen part 1, I spoke about how to basically get yourself set up, saving for moving to Italy, how to think about all the expenses that are those one-off costs in order to get over to Italy, to furnish an apartment, to find an apartment. And today I want to talk about some of the day-to-day costs, the monthly costs, stuff like grocery shopping. Basically, I think that day-to-day living in Italy is quite reasonable, mostly because it's such a land of natural beauty, architectural beauty, history. So really, in terms of having fun on an evening, on the weekend, there are all these wonderful things to do which are free. It's a country that values the arts, that values culture, that has incredible ancient history. So I find that for very little you can go out and have a date, have a romantic evening, have a passeggiata, a little walk by yourself, and just think, wow, I can't believe this is all on my doorstep for free and accessible to everyone. For example, in my apartment that I used to live in Florence up until just recently, it was just near the Ponte Vecchio, right in the center, and there's this little piazza called Piazza della Passera, and there, I mean, it's so picturesque, and I remember I heard jazz music playing, and I rushed out, and then found that during the warmer nights they have these jazz concerts, free jazz concerts on every night, and everyone just sort of gathered there, all the locals, and they have chairs, and everyone's just having an aperitivo. For someone like me, or probably like many of you, who adores art, classical music, opera, jazz, this really is heaven. Also, many of the foreigners who live here or pass through for work are writers, academics, artists, culinary experts, dreamers. So in Rome and Florence, I found that the American and British embassies put on free talks that are always packed with interesting expats and Italians. Poets, writers, professors passing through Italy who give scintillating talks on the history and art of the very streets you're walking down each day from your house. I love Australia, but I never felt at home in a country that really celebrates the athlete and kind of ostracizes even a lightweight intellectual or artist. Here I am in a country where the average person speaks at least 2 or more languages and possesses an impressive knowledge of literary classics, opera, gastronomy, wine, architecture, modern and ancient history. Not everyone in Italy is like this, obviously, but compared with Australia, the difference is dramatic. Aperitivo, which is a very Italian tradition of having a drink before dinner. So you meet up, and people meet up generally in these squares, in the piazze, and it's wonderful because everyone sort of spills out from the bars into the square, and it's this great time to people watch or to catch up with friends, to flirt, to gossip, and you're generally playing even in very central places like this Piazza della Passera near my old apartment. That was super central in Oltrano, and a glass of wine, a really good glass of wine, cost €3, and with complimentary snacks as well. So, and you know, keep in mind as well, you're surrounded by all this architectural beauty. So I think it's really one of the most extraordinary places to live if you're on a budget, because you don't have to spend a lot. Again, with restaurants, I mean, I cook at home mostly because I love to cook, as you know, but with restaurants you can eat out, and even you don't have to go to a fine dining restaurant. Most of the sort of mid-range restaurants, the trattorie, will have a fantastic dish for €8 or €10. So it's quite reasonable, and again, it's sort of, when you're surrounded by all this beauty, it's you don't have to make these plans to go to a concert or to go even to the cinema or to go and pay for something. There is so much historical and cultural and natural beauty just waiting there for you to explore. So I find it just, ever since I moved here, I've always just gone out for a walk without any direction, without any particular destination, just to aimlessly wander around, and the colors, the textures, the bridges, the light. Obviously, I'm an artist, I'm a creative person, but I think that so many of you are watching this because you've had that experience, right? You've had that experience perhaps on holiday, and I guess I'm here to tell you that 10 years on, after living here, that novelty hasn't worn off. It's just, I still walk around and I'm just in awe, in wonder, and I don't know, I find the beauty here is so wonderful because it is so accessible, because it is just open on the street for everyone, and you see families and couples and the elderly, just everyone is out there enjoying it all. And I love cities or towns that are built like that. So I was just going off to do la spesa, to do the grocery shopping, and I'll bring you with me. Okay, do you remember that notepad we started using last episode to make your Italy budget plan? Now would be a good time to go and get it. And under ongoing monthly costs, let's look at groceries. Basically, in this video, if you see an item that you think you might eat on a weekly basis, pause the video, write down the price and the item, obviously just the ones that are relevant to you, and this way you can hopefully get a rudimentary budget for groceries. I was trying to think about what would be most helpful, and I decided that I'll take you through an online shop so that you can really see all the weights and the prices and the quantities, so that you can try and compare it to what you would pay in your own country. I find, though, that the best thing about Italy is that I am generally going to all these little specialists, all these artisans. I'll go to a butcher, and then a fruttivendolo, the greengrocer, and then the baker, and it's a lovely way to use your Italian and have interaction with usually family-run businesses. So you're sort of supporting the small businesses, and it's much better than just going to a supermarket. The quality is so much higher, and the prices are generally quite reasonable. I find, though, that it's hard. I was trying to figure out how much I spend a week, and it's difficult because, for example, my boyfriend's family, they make olive oil, so we get that from them. And then sometimes you stop on the side of the road. There's a woman near here who has just a farm, and she just sells fruit and vegetables on the side of the road, so you can get a giant sort of box of fruit and vegetables, and it's €20 for and that, like, enough to last for 2 weeks. So I've gone through the prices on the supermarket website just to give you a standard, but generally in my case I'll sort of find bits and pieces from also, I don't know, suppliers that I've been going to for years, or that I developed some sort of friendship with, and therefore, like my butcher. Oh my gosh, I love my butcher in Florence. They're so kind, and they talk to everyone, about how they're going to cook the meat and what they're going to do with it. And then everyone in the line as well is just super friendly and having a chat about different recipes. And I remember, so many times I've gone, and if I don't have the right amount of money, they say, "Oh, don't worry, just pay us next month." It's really, there's such trust. Even if you go back to places just a couple of times, there's a wonderful there's a wonderful friendship to be gained because they really appreciate loyalty. And so, yeah, I would advise avoiding the supermarkets for anything but, the essentials, detergent and things like this. But, the markets are where all the pleasure comes for me. I just love going to the markets. I was actually trying to, I was at the hairdresser and I was trying to ask the women there, oh, what do you think? Like to get a nice little cross section, because there was an elderly signora, and then there was the woman, Tess, the owner, and she has a husband and a son. And I was trying to get an idea of what the average Italian in this, at least in around Florence, would pay. This hairdresser who is married with a son, she said she pays €170 per week at the supermarket on average. And yeah, I find that, you see, the thing is, I'm baking and I cook everything at home and I work at home, so I'm never eating lunch out or anything. So I tend to spend quite a bit on groceries, baking for friends and just for me and for you. And also, I like to eat quite healthy sort of diet. So unfortunately, that does cost a little bit more. It would be quite cheap to just live on pasta, but I like to just eat dishes that are using vegetables and high in protein as well. So this costs a little bit more, but I think it's worth it because it also makes me feel really full of energy. So that's just up to you. I think when you're an expat, going and doing the grocery shopping is actually quite fun because it gives you a chance to extend your vocabulary and interact with the people selling you goods and get their advice. And so, yeah, I just find that it's a really wonderful thing, which in your own home country could be considered a chore, but here it's just, I don't know, I really love it. So let's get started. This is generally what I would spend in a week just cooking for myself, assuming that I like to invite friends over for dinner or for lunch, or I might have a meeting with someone and offer them afternoon tea. So I cook a lot. I don't spend very much at all on restaurants because I work from home, and so I'm basically cooking breakfast, lunch, afternoon tea, and snacks and dinner always at home. Keep in mind also that a lot of the meat I usually get from a butcher, so I don't get it from a supermarket, and the fruit and vegetables I'll often get from a fruttivendolo, from a greengrocer, but this will help you get an idea. And hopefully it'll also teach you some of the basic words you need for getting groceries in Italian. So let's begin with spinach, spinaci. If you see biologici or biologico or bio, that means organic. So yes, I usually get a packet of spinaci. I like to chop it up and have it in salads, or steam it and serve it with fish or chicken. I chose here oranges, but basically it could just be a token amount for a type of sweet fruit that I can have for afternoon tea or for breakfast or as a snack. Bananas, kiwi fruit. My sister is a nutritionist and she always says that kiwi fruit is the best sweet fruit to snack on. Carrots I use always in a sofrito for soups, or even for salads I eat it raw, carote. That's an easy one. Cipolle, onions. I like to use red onions. I use them a lot actually. I sort of tend to roast a lot of vegetables and have warm salads. And for that I also like to use sweet potato, patate dolci. These are not so common initially, but obviously they're much better for you than just white potatoes. Broccoli, broccoletti. Sedano, celery, good as a base for soups. Zucchine I use all the time in cooking. I like to roast them, I like to grill them, I like to grate them and put them as a crust on top of fish. Yogurt, I always like to get plain yogurt with no colouring, no sugar, but I tend to buy a bigger tub so that it ends up being cheaper per kilo. Burro, which is butter. I do use a lot of butter for baking. Uova fresche. Uova is eggs. And yes, these are also organic, biologiche, and I use them a lot in baking as well. My mother's side is Greek, so I do love to make Greek salads for lunch. I find them super healthy. And this is feta cheese here, which I like to put in salads. Then we have mozzarella, of course. Mozzarella is great for doing pasta al forno, which is like an oven-baked pasta dish, which is super easy and for those nights when you just want something like some comfort food that's very delicious, or if I'm making pizza. Pecorino is essential, either to have pecorino or parmigiano or one of these very hard cheeses to grate over pasta. And then we have underneath that mozzarella di bufala. Now you see you can get different types of mozzarella, obviously. There's mozzarella that I'll use just for melting over vegetables or pasta, and then there's mozzarella that I'll use as an antipasto if friends come around and you want to actually really taste good mozzarella di bufala, which is buffalo mozzarella. Pancetta. Pancetta is definitely a staple. Then we have carne macinata. Okay, carne is meat and macinata is minced. So this is just a staple as well. Petto di pollo. Okay, so petto literally means chest. So it's like chicken breast. Pollo is chicken. Underneath that, I have a full chicken for roast chicken, which I like to do when friends come over, or it's a nice meal for two. I always try to get free-range organic chicken. Farina integrale. Farina is flour and integrale is wholemeal or whole wheat. I use this a lot for baking. Beneath this we have quinoa. It's an easy way to put some protein into your lunch. And then, of course, have to have a packet of pasta. I like to use the rigatoni. I think it's a nice robust pasta shape. You can use it for pasta al forno, but you can also use it for carbonara. Underneath this we have zucchero, which is sugar. Then we have miele, honey. Miele, tend to use it either in baking if I don't want to use sugar, or sometimes I use it in stir fries to sweeten them up a bit with some tamari. Cioccolato al latte. This is chocolate that I'll use for cooking, and then underneath that we have some more chocolate just for a special treat for snacking on. Then we have cinnamon, cannella macinata, so it's ground cinnamon. Also peperoncino, which is chili. Then we have passata di pomodoro. This is a tomato puree, which is wonderful for soups, for pasta sauces, obviously. And underneath that, ceci. Chickpeas are wonderful to just throw some protein into salads. I also like to grind them up to make hummus. Lenticchie, lentils. Italians use lentils a lot in cooking, actually, and I find it great as a source of protein to add to salads, warm salads, or I will roast a whole tray of vegetables and then just throw some lentils over at the last minute. Olive, olives. I like to put this into my Greek salads. Filetto di salmone. Now here I've got two of these because I find them so useful. They are a bit expensive at $4.45 each, but it's a great way to get some fish, some protein into you, and it's al vapore, so it's just steamed salmon, and just throw that in a pan with some tomatoes and some olives, or I can just have it in a salad. I also like to add almonds to salads, and these are called in Italian mandorle. Mandorle are also a great snack that I like to have, like I'll cut up a kiwi fruit and with some yogurt and almonds, and that's a nice little afternoon snack so that I don't go reaching for junk food. Then we have dishwasher pellets. Lavastoviglie is dishwasher. Underneath this I just have some cleaner for the pavimenti, for floors. Carta igienica. Carta igienica is toilet paper. Fazzoletti is tissues if you have allergies like me. Of course there are also, toiletries which you may not think you're buying them. Okay, obviously you're not buying, for example, deodorant and tampons. You're not buying them every week, but I think from week to week there'll always be something. For example, one week there might be, moisturizer. And then at the bottom there is carta da forno, which is baking paper. Sometimes I will get fresh fish from the fishmonger, but if I do want to save money, it costs less to buy the frozen fish. So, for example, here I have filetti di branzino, which I just like to do in the oven with tomatoes and cherry tomatoes and olives and lemon and garlic, and that's a lovely healthy dinner and feeds too. So yes, that's a basic idea. And then we have the grand total, 133.66. So 133, yeah, that's more or less what I would be paying per week, even if I go and buy these the fruit and the meat from a butcher and a fruttivendolo. Yeah. Now, of course, this list does vary from week to week. For example, I didn't put in coffee, which is fundamental, but then equally there are other weeks where I don't eat really any meat at all. I'm just living on vegetables. There's all kinds of variables, but next episode, I'm going to talk a lot more about these monthly, daily costs. I'll talk about transport. I'll talk about being social, having a social life, basically, what that costs you. And I hope you'll come back for that episode. Basically, I just want to help you. I'm trying to make the type of video that would have been helpful for me 10 years ago. So do give the video a like. It makes me so happy. And I love reading your comments. I love getting to know you more. Thank you, as always, to my patrons who support my work. And I'm recording this at 4 a.m. in the morning on, well, it's Saturday morning now, but Friday night. And I just see your names. I see your names come up on this screen, and I see the beautiful messages that you write me when you decide to become a patron, and it is so moving and so motivating. So yes, I'll see you next Wednesday. Probably that's when I'll have the next episode up. Do subscribe to my channel because I'm working really hard to bring you videos twice a week. Okay, have a lovely Sunday. Ciao.